Indie Feed.
Happy March, everybody. And March 2013 means just one thing. The annual Women of the World Poetry Slam held this year in Minneapolis. And to celebrate the next 4 New Poet Mondays, every Monday in March, actually, we're going to be featuring a stunning new woman poet here on Indie Feed. And we can't kick off this series any better than with this epic story poem. Please welcome to the channel, Linda Ravenswood.
Last of the Red Hot Lovers. As nice as the Obama is, as handsome and sexy and everything else about his talking with speeches, he's not for me, darling. No, he's just not Jewish enough, my grandmother says to me. But if I was a shiksa, you better believe I'm going to call up the Obama and I'm going to say in the receiver, this is if he's not married now, because Bobby don't fool around. So I'm going to say, Obama, this is the Bobby and I'm a real hot ticket. And does she start laughing at herself and slapping her hands in her lap, reaching for her cup and saucer and breaking pieces off the cake ring I've brought her from Cantor's. You know, darling, Cantor's is not kosher. No, but I won't tell Grandpa. Hey, when is Zadie coming home anyway? He's at shul, but between us, I think he's got another girl on the side. And does she start laughing at herself again? I'm going to ask her. Maybe today I'll try. But she beats me out of the gate as usual. No, what you making, mein Kind? Still with the glazes? Yes, Bobby. The kiln is full of the new mugs for the shop on Montana. That's my Kind. Good girl. Never saw the old country, never saw the factory, but she has the making in her. Oh, mein Kind. And she caresses my forehead with her ancient hands. I'm going to ask questions. I think it's today. It's so obvious that you are mein Kind. Und my father of blessed memory, obvious that you are mine and his and ours. Obvious, Bobby, obvious. I know it's obvious, but I say it mine own way. I'm going to ask questions, Bobby. Questions you don't want to talk. Bobby, do you remember when you were in Germany? Yes, mein Kind, yes. And do you remember before the war when you were in Bremen and you lived with great-grandfather and my mother? Yes, I remember. So, do you remember the last days before you were moved out of your house? Yes, I remember. You want a story? I know you always want a story. So here we go. We was a community of artists. My father and my uncle and the whole land as far as you could see up the road was our land. And we had 58 workers and we made the finest pottery and dishes and tiles in the whole country. But you know this, you are the legacy. They can take away the factory, they can take away the house, and we can move to another place. But they can't break us. And they can't take away our truth. And that's why I keep saying, why don't the Palestinians move to Jordan or to Oman or work something with Obama to move the ones who want a house and job in America to come over here like we did and start again? And she sits with her mouth waiting for the answer. I'm not sure why the Palestinians don't move here, Bub. I think they want to live in their own homeland. You think we didn't want to stay in our homeland? We was there more 700 years. But Bobby's gone off the subject, like mein Kind's always saying. No, where was I? So the night was cold that night when the soldiers came. The snow was on the ground and the house was so beautiful as we walked away. My mother had a piece of fur around her collar that shook in the wind. You look a little bit like her, mein Kind. And so, and then, and years passed, and we never went home again. And now the workers' children own the factory and live in the houses, and it's still standing to this day. The end. And she looks and smiles and pushes the pastry between her teeth. Thanks, Bubby. I wish I could have been there with you, you know, that day in the snow. I know you would, my dearest kind. I know that you would have stood up to them with your goodness. And so I am glad that you weren't there and that you came later to the Bubby. And now we are best friends, no? Yes, you are my best friend. But, Grandma, can I ask you something then, since we are so close and you won't be mad? Never could be mad with mein Kind. What is it, you need a little money? No, Bubby, it's not that. I want to know about what happened. What happened? Between when the soldiers came and when you arrived in America, the part between. And she's not smiling anymore, and she's not hungry anymore, and the air got sucked out of the place, and it's my fault. Forget it, Bubby. I'm sorry. I always wanted to know ever since I first saw the number on your arm when I was little, but I know you don't want to talk about it and that it's not nice to ask. Forgive me, please. I'm sorry to upset you. You want to know, huh? You want to know what they done to Bubby? No, actually, I don't. I'm sorry, Bubby. I say, and I feel like crawling under the coffee table and vomiting. Her eyes steal up and she says, everything what you think they could have done to the Bubby, they did. But I don't want to say, because the words can do what the meaning of what happened is. Maybe if I could explode the house, on the next house, and the next house, and all the neighbors would come out shrieking, and the mountains would burst fire into the clouds, and this went on for 27 months, and everyone around was all helpless and starving, and then you could know what they done to the Bubby. But to say they tortured me or they killed my mother in front of my eyes, to say a small phrase like this, or a smaller one like rape, if I say these things, these small things like a grocery list to make a terrible recipe, I maybe should just be talking about nothing. Bubby sits with me. She sits until the sun goes down and lets me sit with her in the quiet of her living room. I've cried so hard for my grandmother that my head is pounding, and she knows it because she knows me. She stands up and takes me outside. The cars and the night air is strange comfort. Holding my hand, she walks and says, when the Russians came to take us out from there, I was 88 pounds. I worked with a stick in the sanitarium for a year, and I couldn't speak for 2 years. I was a scrap of me. The whole family was all killed. I had typhus, and they thought that I could never have any children after all what happened down there. And when we came to America, we worked so hard and left so hard again. And there was new wonders like Uncle Milty on the television, and how the new synagogue got built up on Wilshire, and food like you couldn't believe. And the bread man came the morning, and we would go outside to pick the loaves we wanted from the back of his van, and some of the shelves had rolls, and some had pies, and some had cakes. And he always had a necktie on, the bread man. And things was like this and so for a while, and then your father came, and then you came, and you say the hell with all the nightmares, and you run to the door when the bread man rings his bell. Bubby and me are walking. Our arms and hands are weft together like folk dancers, readying for a swift promenade. But we go carefully now. Little sighs come out of Bubby as she pads the side streets. And I remember something that I meant to tell her. Bubby, by the way, Obama's not Jewish at all. You know, he's not even... What are you talking? Of course the Obama's a little Jewish, she says. And she walks me all the way to the corner.